Shocking, the successful, accomplished showbiz couple, Rob and Michele Reiner, who seemingly gave their kids the best that life could offer, come to this end allegedly at the hands of their own son, 32-year-old Nick Reiner. Being murdered by your own child is one of the most ghastly and devastating ways to die. It was a horror movie. Even the iconic movie director Rob Reiner couldn't imagine possible. No parent can imagine their own child doing this, no matter how bad he's scared. The question that haunts us is whether this was premeditated or was it a case of Nick snapping that day. Unless Nick speaks up, we will never know. There are many theories about why this happened, and from what I have read and gleaned from reports, here's what I think went wrong. This is just my opinion and in no way intended to blame or diagnose anyone, as I am not a qualified clinician or expert. People blame drugs for Nick's behavior, which led him to commit this heinous parricide. Long term addiction does fry one's brain and distort cognitive function and emotional regulation. He began doing drugs when he was in his early teens, and even after 18 rehab stints, he continued to relapse. Drugs are often a symptom of an underlying problem. I don't ascribe to the belief that some kids are just born bad and parents are blameless. More so, this narrative is prevalent when the other kids seem okay. Gabor Maté, author of Scattered Minds, How Attention Deficit Disorder Originates and What You Can Do About It, has said, it may be said that no two children have exactly the same parents, in that the parenting they each receive may vary in highly significant ways. We can only speculate about the family dynamics. Just because parents are rich and successful doesn't mean they score high in the parenting department. Antisocial adults like Nick are created from a combination of factors, as are children who struggle with mental illness and substance abuse. As parents, many of us are more concerned with our public image than our private behavior, particularly when it comes to our kids. We cover up our failings with big gestures and rewards. But at the heart of a failed parent child relationship is a busy, inconsistent, inconsiderate, uncaring, insensitive, or coercive parent. We override our children's feelings, disrespect them, and try to make them into versions we are comfortable with. Having a father like Rob, who was larger than life, is hard for any child, most of all a sensitive child like Nick. According to reports, Nick seemed to be a trouble kid. I hate the word trouble. It signifies something is inherently wrong with a child, when rather it is the troubling, non nurturing environment that causes reactive, disruptive, and antisocial behavior. I am a firm believer in nurture overriding nature. Attuned care can mitigate the effects of any sociopathic gene. Most kids aren't born psychologically damaged. Sociopathy or a lack of conscience happens due to something in a child's developmental years. A great book is High Risk Children Without a Conscience by Dr. Ken Magid. We keep hearing so much about how Rob Reiner tried to support and bolster his son. But was that more of a superficial appeasement, a band-aid on a festering sore? You really can't heal something by overlooking the root cause, attachment issues, and a failure to bond. All the parenting talk is about the father. But what about the mother's contribution or lack of it? There's nothing much about the mother being involved or showing support. Was Nick's rage primarily towards the mother? After all, one's mother is supposed to be the nurturing one, even more than the father. Particularly when dad is busy making movies and bringing in the money, any child would expect their mother to fill the void. From the looks of it, his mother seems to be sort of disconnected from him. He was a successful photographer, but how did she respond to being a mother to Nick? Maybe she wanted a girl, and Nick, another son, was born, or maybe Nick was born too close to his elder brother, and Michelle just didn't have the time or energy to give Nick what he needed. Or was his birth difficult and stressful? The fact of the matter is, Nick was different and demanding. I guess his temperament didn't make him easy to care for. The environment wasn't able to match his needs and temperament. Effective parenting is about goodness of fit, aligning your parenting style and environment with your child's unique temperament. According to Rob, when Nick was born, he was different, not abnormal, but temperamentally challenging. He confessed to trying to make him fit in. He says, "We try to mold him instead of celebrating his oddballness." I had a father like Rob, blustery, always trying to control what we did, more so my brother, always pushing my brother to be more of a man. My brother grew up to be a very angry, rageful person. However, thankfully, he didn't turn to drugs. Not being understood and having one's feelings and needs brushed aside can be very damaging to a child. According to reports, Nick was an extremely difficult child who had many uncontrollable tantrums. Signs of him being disturbed were prevalent since he was very, very young. Instead of being there for their child, they hired experts and sent him for yoga. There are so many reasons why Nick's development got off on a wrong start. But at the heart of most cases of aberrant behavior from a young age is disruption of the bonding process. A child needs to bond with at least one caregiver before the age of 2. It would be interesting to know the history of Nick's life from birth to 2 years. Maybe Rob realized they had effed up at that stage, which made him start his foundation, I Am Your Child, and create the series First Years Last Forever. We as a society need to understand that disrupted attachment between primary caregivers and very young children has serious life altering consequences that can be devastating. It must not have been easy for Nick to have two high achieving parents. They must have been busy in and out of the home, leaving Nick in the company of paid help. Whenever I hear about how resilient new mothers are going back to work after a week or a month, I want to cry. What about the poor baby left without the comfort of mummy, given formula milk by disinterested, misattuned nannies? Unattached children or those with attachment issues are kids who struggle to form secure bonds due to early life trauma, neglect, or inconsistent care, leading to behaviors like lack of emotional control, absence of empathy, aggression, manipulation, and difficulty trusting. Next behavior, it seems, stemmed from inconsistent caregiving. He probably had a roster of indifferent nannies, a poor replacement for the real love and care a child needs. Not all unattached children grow up to be criminals, but most suffer from some form of psychological damage. It may be that such children simply are never able to develop a true loving relationship, or they end up conning others for their own benefit. These two can be tragedy. For no child should have to grow up without this trust bond and loving beginning. Bonding, the love connection between one or two primary caregivers and the child, is either established or missed in the first 18 months of a baby's life. Outsourcing a baby's caregiving to uncaring nannies who may have the credentials but not the empathy, joy, and love for a child is setting a child up to become a sociopath. According to Dr. Ken Maté, a complex set of events must occur in infancy to ensure a future of trust and love. If the proper bonding and subsequent attachment doesn't occur, usually between the child and the mother, the child will develop mistrust and a deep rooted rage. He becomes a child without a conscience. Rich, busy parents think hiring an expert is the best way to deal with a problem child. Instead of addressing the real issue, a child's craving for their parents' time, attention, and attunement. According to the Rat Park experiment, when we don't get our need for attuned connection and care met, our nervous system gets dysregulated and we feel distress. To ease the pain, we turn to exogenous substances to help soothe that pain. Deficits in attachment rewire the brain for addiction. Brain circuits for attachment and addiction overlap. As a child, Nick eased his distress by throwing tantrums. But as he reached his teen years, he found an easier and quicker source drugs. Over time, it became a cycle of using drugs to feel okay. But that only upset his parents. So he promised to go clean under their care. They'd probably be there for him during that phase. Then they'd be back to their career and other commitments, which led him to spiral back into addiction. I find Rob Reiner making a film, Being Charlie, based on his son's addiction, narcissistically self indulgent. If I were a recovering addict, I'd be embarrassed to have my failings broadcast publicly. It was akin to shouting out from the rooftops, "See what a great father I am," even though my son is an addict. According to reports, they were constantly fighting and arguing on the set, after which Rob would kiss his son on the lips. In my maternal side of the family, lip kissing was the norm. Even though they hated me, they still lip kissed. I feel lip kissing in a parent child or caregiver child relationship is a form of coercive control. It hijacks our limbic brain. You are being gaslit into going along into the adult's narrative. Rob and Michelle try to fix their child's issues by throwing money at it, making a movie, sending him to rehab repeatedly. But that approach backfired. They alternated between coddling and tough love. It seems their parenting lacks stability. Forcing your disturbed adult son to tag along at a high profile party was a serious parenting fail. And there may have been many of these kinds of stupid parenting choices. A smart solution would have been for one parent to stay back and be with Nick. I think both dad and mom didn't want to sacrifice either career or socializing for their kids. This is a reason why many children of wealthy or famous stars struggle with addiction, mental health issues, or troubled lives, despite their privileged upbringing. Loving your kids means being there, spending time, being involved, and having deep conversations. The well known psychologist Scott Peck has said, "Love is time. When you truly love someone, we happily and willingly prioritize spending time with them over anything else." No parent is perfect, but showing up and being involved is a huge portion of what's needed. A parent's lack of attention, surface level conversations, and inability to see their child in a deep and emotional way creates feelings of hurt, anger, and loneliness. Growing up being ignored, minimized, and invalidated on a regular basis is a form of emotional neglect. When your feelings aren't noticed, responded to, or validated enough, it leaves a huge hole in your psyche. It's not easy to be the children of high achieving parents. These overachievers are often fixated on their own definition of success and are very opinionated on what actions lead to happiness. They often dismiss and minimize traits that are not valuable in their own field. If their children happen to possess different propensities or talents from them, they insidiously try to force them to fit into the parents' value system, pushes their child to seek validation elsewhere, which is often bad company and drugs. These parents, even though well intentioned, eventually destroys their child's innate sense of self-worth. Rob and his wife Michele Reiner try to do everything possible to help their son. But if you have to babysit a 32-year-old, it's too late. Parenting is tricky business. You only know you have effed up in hindsight. After it's beyond repair. The early years matter most and they last forever.